Let's. Oh, now you're live. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
We've been telling stories all these weeks, and we've yet to mention the Baal Shem Tov. Well, now's the time, and perhaps again in 2 weeks when it's the anniversary of his birthday. This story is from my first book, Saturday Night Full Moon. The story happened in the middle 1700s, quite a while ago. There was a man named Moshe Shlomo. He was a shopkeeper in a village, and he was successful. So he had wealth, and both he and his wife, his name was Rivka, were very generous-hearted people. So they gave very generously to various worthy causes. One of which was giving money to the Baal Shem Tov, who had taken upon himself the support of what was known as the Tzaddikim Nistarim, the hidden righteous. Perhaps corresponding to the 36 hidden righteous that are more well known. And as I said, they were quite wealthy and good-hearted people, but they had one area of sadness in their lives. They'd been married for 15 years and had yet no children. And often they would travel to the Baal Shem Tov and ask him for a blessing. And he would give them a blessing. He would give them a blessing for health. He would give them a blessing for wealth. He would give them a blessing for long life. He would give them a blessing for happiness. But he never said the blessing that they were waiting to hear, that they should have children, and it was very frustrating to them. 10 more years went by. In other words, they'd been married 25 years. And this time they came to the Baal Shem Tov together, Moshe Shlomo and Rivka, and they said before him about how unhappy they were that they had no children, and were never able to get a blessing from him. Even the other Hasidim would ask the Baal Shem Tov to give them a blessing for children already. So they came this one more time to the Baal Shem Tov, and they were in tears before him. And the Baal Shem Tov said, but why are you so sad? You're both in very good health. You're quite wealthy, and not only that, you do very good things with your wealth. You've earned great merit. And they said, well, what good is our wealth? There's nobody to inherit us, nobody to say Kaddish for us, nobody's even going to remember us. And there's nobody will name anyone after us. The Baal Shem Tov didn't answer this complaint directly. He just said, much to their surprise, I tell you what, tomorrow I'm going on a journey with some of my students. Why don't you two come along with us? So they accepted the invitation, and their carriage joined the caravan that was following the carriage of the Baal Shem Tov. And this isn't one of those stories where they had miraculous, instantaneous arrivals. They traveled for 3 days, and finally they came to this little town, which seemed to have a sizable Jewish community. And the Baal Shem Tov said, let's rest for a while. And after everyone had rested in their carriages for a while, the Baal Shem Tov said, come, let's take a look around town. So they started walking, all the people together. And they came across a group of little boys that were playing. The boys, so young they weren't yet of school age, so they were out playing. And the Baal Shem Tov stopped one of them and asked him, what's your name? He said, my name is Baruch Moshe. And then the Baal Shem Tov walked over to one of the other little boys and said, what's your name? And he said, my name is Baruch Moshe. And he asked another one, and the boy said, my name is Baruch Moshe. So the Baal Shem Tov asked the whole group what was their names, and half of them were named Baruch Moshe, and most of the others had either a Baruch in their name or a Moshe in their name. Baruch Mordechai, Moshe Avraham, Avraham Moshe, etc., etc. And they found this very surprising. The people with the Baal Shem Tov found this very surprising. The Baal Shem Tov, he smiled. So they walked along. They came to a group of school children who had just come out of school, young children from Cheder. And again, he asked the various ones their names, and it was the same thing. A large proportion were named Baruch Moshe, and most of the others had either a Baruch or a Moshe in their name. And they came across a group of girls playing together, and Baal Shem Tov asked one of them, please tell me your name. She said, my name is Bracha Leah. He asked another girl, what's your name? She said, Bracha Leah. And it was the same as with the boys. About half of them were named Bracha Leah, and the others had a Bracha or a Leah in their name for the most part. Finally, they came across a yeshiva for bigger boys, where most of the students were not from the village, but were from the surrounding areas. But it was the same story. At least half of them were named Baruch Moshe, and all the rest had a Baruch or a Moshe. And everybody was very perplexed. And Baal Shem Tov said, look, it's time to daven mincha. Let's go to the local shul, and then maybe we can find out an explanation. So they went to the shul, and they went to the shul, and after mincha, the Baal Shem Tov addressed one of the people that had been praying there, and he said, why is it that all the children seem to have the same names? And and the man smiled and said, I'll be happy to tell you the story. He said, Baruch Moshe was born about 100 years ago in this town. His father, Isaac Shalom, was both a Talmud Chacham and a successful butcher. He had a butcher shop, and he was doing very well. The Kashmir, Ruchnius, in the spiritual aspect, the material aspect. But the one thing that made him sad was his son Moshe Shlomo just didn't seem to be able to learn well Torah. It just didn't sink in his head. And when Moshe Shlomo got to be about 15 years old, so he realized that the case is hopeless. So he took him into the business. He stopped going to school, and he started helping his father with the business. And it turned out he had a real knack for it. And so after a number of years, his father turned the business over to him and retired, so he could spend most of his time learning Torah. Moshe Shlomo married Bracha Leah, also from the town, who was a good-hearted person like he was, and the two of them were married for many years, and his business prospered, and they gave a lot of money to tzedakah, but they had no children. And what first hurt him even more was when his father passed away. His father, Isaac Shalom, who taught him the butcher business, he wanted to learn Mishnayos for his soul, for the elevation of his soul. It's said that it's desirable to learn specifically Mishnah for the benefit of the soul of the departed, because Mishnah has the same letters as Neshama, soul. And he couldn't. He didn't even know how to learn Mishnah, which is more of a beginner's level of study rather than an advanced level of study. He hired somebody to teach him, one of the Torah scholars in the village, Rabbi, what was his name, Shlomo Yitzhak, but it didn't help. He just couldn't get it. And he felt so bad, not only he can't learn Mishnah for the soul of his father, but he doesn't have any children that will learn Mishnah for him after 120, or for his wife for that matter. He thought to himself, at least I can say Kaddish for my father, but who's going to say Kaddish for me? And for my wife Bracha Leah. So this made him sad. And then sometime during that year, when he was saying Kaddish and he was attending shul so regularly, he overheard the rabbi, when he was giving a class, say that it states in the Talmud in Brachos that somebody who teaches Torah to his friend's children, it's counted to him as if he gave birth to them, because it's like he's the father of their souls. He's their spiritual parents. He teaches them Torah. And that made him feel even worse. He can't even do that. Not only he doesn't have children of his own biologically, but he can't even have the spiritual children because he doesn't know enough Torah to teach Torah. And he decided he has to speak to the rabbi, and he told the rabbi how he's even more unhappy because he can't even make this mitzvah of having spiritual children by teaching them Torah. And the rabbi said, my friend Moshe Shlomo, you didn't exactly understand, or you didn't understand completely. The idea is that the friend's children it can count as your children if you educate them in Torah, if their father is not able to. But it doesn't mean you have to teach them directly. But at least you have to. But if you provide for their education, even if it's through someone else, so then the same teaching applies. So he got very excited about that, and he told his wife, and she was also excited, and they hired 30 teachers to teach all the children, to tutor all the children that needed tutoring, and to open another school for the children that had no, from the surrounding areas who had no place to study. His business prospered even more after that, but they both were happy to live very simply and use as much money as they could for children's education. So the man telling the Baal Shem Tov and his followers this story said that both Baruch Moshe and Bracha Leah passed away around 15 years ago. He said, I'm one of the boys who learned in the school they set up. The rabbi of the town learned in one of the schools they set up, and many other people here as well. And in gratitude, we decided to name our children after this wonderful couple. And on the yard site, the rabbi says Kaddish and for them, and we all go down to the graveyard just as if they were our parents. So by now, the Baal Shem Tov's followers, and of course Moshe Shlomo and his wife Rivka, understood well the purpose of this journey that the Baal Shem Tov had taken them on. And as soon as they got home, so they followed the path of Baruch Moshe and Bracha Leah, and devoted on a consistent basis a significant portion of their wealth for supporting education for Jewish children that needed help in tutoring or had no other place to learn. And if you were to visit that village in the next generation, you'd probably find many children named Moshe Shlomo and Rivka. How long was that? Did you know?